Hello and welcome to Iowa Ideas. This is the ninth year of Iowa Ideas, sponsored by the Gazette. It's an event that explores topics that are important to Iowans, and we're excited for two really great days of discussion on the pressing issues facing Iowans. The Gazette would like to give a special thank you to our presenting sponsor, ITC Midwest, and their support helps make Iowa Ideas discussions free for everyone. You'll be able to submit questions to our panel today by entering them into the Q&A box or in the Zoom chat, and we will work them into the conversation. We would really like to hear from you. Today, we're going to discuss the rise of girls and women's sports in Iowa and how it's affecting the state. I'm Jeff Linder, Gazette sports writer, and today I'm joined by a great group of panelists. First, we have Sasha Boros, head women's tennis coach at the University of Iowa. Second, we've got Lila Clary, Senior Associate Athletic Director at the University of Iowa. And we've also got Jason Esslinger, Senior Associate Director at the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union. And Sasha, we'll start with you. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Excited to be here today and talk on this topic that's close to my heart. I played at the University of Iowa as a student athlete in the 90s and had the honor of being able to have the stars align to come back and coach my alma mater, which doesn't happen for everyone. But really happy to be back at Iowa and leading this team, especially during some of the great times that I think we'll talk about when we got a chance to celebrate 50 years of Title IX and 50 years of Iowa women's athletics. It was really special to be a part of that.
Lila, let's hear a little bit more about you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Happy to be here. I came here to Iowa back in 2013, working in athletics compliance, and I've kind of just been throughout the administration with athletics and get to work with really all of our programs, but directly oversee 4 of our women's sports programs.
Okay. I've known Jason for quite a while. I knew him before he was at the Girls Athletic Union. I knew him when he was a sports information director at Drake University. They had a fairly new coach there at the time and someone named Lisa Bluter, an assistant named Jan Jensen. And obviously they've gone on to do great things. Jason, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'm also very happy to be here too, Jeff. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Jason Esslinger. I'm a Grundy Center native, so I'm a native Iowan and grew up. Girls athletics was very important to me growing up, as far as from the standpoint of watching Grundy Center make the 6-player tournament for the first time when I was a senior, and from there I went to I'm also a University of Iowa graduate. Worked in the women's sports information office when the 2 offices were separate when I was an undergrad. Went to Central Connecticut State and was an assistant SID there, and then made my way to Drake. And I've been with the Girls Athletic Union since 1997. So I'm approaching year number 30 here in May.
And our first year together, when I was at the Gazette and you were at the Girls Athletic Union, was the summer. We'll never forget the state softball tournament in 1998 with all the rain. We spent
all the rain,
a lot of time cooped up at the Best Western Starlight Village.
I think we spent a whole 24 hours watching the Weather Channel, and we just this little itty bitty blob that would not move.
Yeah, that's right. As we begin this, we talk about the rise of girls, women's sports in Iowa. I think it would be appropriate. The rise lately has been palpable because of the beginning of wrestling, the Caitlin Clark era. But I want to go back even further. I think Iowa has always been ahead of the curve. A lot of the reason because of 2 people, Christine Grant and Ewayne Cooley. Lila and Sasha, can you tell us a little bit more about Christine and just her vision at the University of Iowa and her, everything she was responsible for there?
Yeah, I mean, I was so fortunate to be a freshman in 1992, and I came to the University of Iowa really, as a Hayden Fry and Tom Davis fan, and walked into this great university. And little did I know that really, like, the greatest champion I'd ever had was sitting in the athletic director's chair for the women's athletics. There was a separate athletic program at those times, and she I think to this day is a Hawkeye that has had the most profound effect really on the world because of her advocacy for equity through sports. She was integral in the passage of the Title IX legislation and was a leader not only at the University of Iowa, but also at the AIAW and on many national boards and committees. She testified in front of Congress. She was just unrelentless in her pursuit of equity and wanted to really have the University of Iowa be an example of which a lot of people could look to as the North Star in terms of the support that we gave to girls and women's in sports, because she knew when they had that opportunity in sport, they would go on in their life to be incredible leaders and contribute in their community in meaningful ways that would really just make the world a better place.
Lila?
Yeah, no, I mean, I have the opportunity to meet with Dr. Grant when I first arrived here for a couple of years. And so it's been a really great honor to be able to continue to ensure that we follow the values that she put in place and, continue to uplift the opportunities for women and girls sports. Especially today in the changing collegiate landscape, that is of utmost importance to continue to push and advance women's sports.
Great. Jason, before there was Title IX, long before there was Title IX, there was Ewayne Cooley, and he started at the Girls Union in 1955, I believe, and I think he was there
Correct.
till 05. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Iowa is Iowa a lot because of Ewayne, and just tell him and as far as the impact that he had with the Girls Athletic Union and Iowa girls high school sports.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about Dr. Cooley. I was fortunate enough, I was able to work for him for his last 5 years at the IGHSAU. And the one thing about Dr. Cooley is the amount of respect that he had of from everyone from Iowa in regards to how we ran our programs, and also from the standpoint of the effect he had on Title IX when that legislation was passed. Iowa was kind of the trailblazer from the standpoint of that's who everyone kind of when all the other 49 states had to put things together and put athletics together for females, they looked to him for guidance because we'd been doing it since 1920. At the time Title IX was passed, I think Iowa had about 6 or 7 different sports that we were sponsoring for high school girls, and his impact led to a lot of his impact in guiding force helped a lot of states set up their programs. So it was always his vision that the Iowa girls stand just as tall as their male counterparts, and that was kind of a guiding principle for us. Even me coming in 1997 was something that was very important to us in our organization and still is.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's talk Caitlin Clark. Let's talk a little bit about her 4 years. And I guess we can kind of go back just a little bit before that. It just seemed like everything was really starting to roll towards the end of the Megan Gustafson era. 2019, they got to the Elite Eight. Caitlin Clark comes. Her first year, is post-COVID. They didn't know if they were going to have a season or not. They get to the Sweet 16. That whole tournament was in San Antonio, I believe. And, both for Lila and Sasha, how do you begin to quantify her impact to the university? And, how do you see the university capitalizing on her legacy in the future?
Yeah, I mean, those were great 4 years we had with her, right? I mean, it's a little unfortunate that her freshman year was COVID year and nobody really got to be a part of that firsthand experience, but really appreciated the 4 years that we did have with her. And it was tremendous. It just brought a lot of eyes and attention to not only women's basketball, but to the University of Iowa. And that's just something that has continued. Whether she's playing in the WNBA or whatever she's doing, we continue to be part of that conversation every time Caitlin is mentioned. And so, it's kind of up to us to continue that legacy and to continue to show the greatness that was started during that time. You mentioned, Megan and Caitlin as well, and the number of folks before that have helped really elevate this program. It's fortunate that we're able to continue to play in full arenas, whether they're home or away. We travel and they travel with us. And so it's just the opportunities and the eyes that Caitlin helped bring to the sport of women's basketball, to the University of Iowa, which really kind of overflows into all of our sports programs, right? We've seen a great deal of success in many of our women's programs lately. We've got our soccer program in the top 10. Field hockey's consistently a top performer, hosting #1 Northwestern this weekend. So it hasn't been just focused on women's basketball. Fortunately, it's spreading throughout all of our women's programs. Sasha's in that too, with our women's tennis program. They've all really have the opportunity to grow and expand and just really provide great opportunities and experiences for our student athletes.
Sasha, have you seen a bump? I mean, as far as, kind of a ripple effect throughout the other programs, including your own, in kind of following those footsteps?
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, the first day I was able to call the Rising Juniors, after Caitlin graduated, I had more responses from the top 50 domestic kids than I've ever had. And I think that the brand of Iowa, and especially the brand of Iowa women's athletics, was conveyed by Coach Bluter and Jan and by Caitlin and Kate Martin at these press conferences in such a beautiful and important way. I think it was really just a perfect storm. So as she was going through her 4 years here was when we were, as a department, celebrating 50 years of Iowa women's athletics and 50 years of Title IX. And so they were immersed in education and celebration and connection. And we had all sorts of galas and communications, and they absorbed that. And so when the stage was opened for them to be able to talk about the history of sports and to acknowledge the AIAW and mentors, and Lisa Bluter was such a good leader in terms of making sure that her team understood where they were in the scope of history, that story got told in a way that was so profound. And then in addition to that, it was right on the brink of the beginning of the NIL era. And so it was just really a perfect storm of those women on that basketball team having the skill set and the talent, generational talent, being informed and feeling such pride in our university and our history. We all watched Unshakable Belief, the documentary, together on the history of Iowa women's athletics. And I remember after that, showing at Carver Hawkeye with all the women's teams, I saw Caitlin and Kate in the parking lot at Carver, and we embraced each other and said that our history is our superpower at Iowa, and no other university can claim that. And they embraced that, and then they took it to the stage. And then along with that, she was able to take advantage of NIL and partner and make the brand rise. And that has been something that has seeped into all of the sports, especially women's sports at Iowa.
And I'm not sure that the Iowa women's basketball programs ever had a better October day. Well, I guess they did 2 years ago with the crossover at Kinnick. But yesterday, first of all, it was announced that they'll be having their third consecutive season sellout next year. And then also they received word that the sixth-ranked senior in the country, McKenna Velichko, will be joining them in 2026. And boy, I think the train just keeps rolling down there as far as the interest in that program. Were you, Sasha and Lila, were both of you at crossover at Kinnick 2 years ago?
Oh, absolutely.
Just from your standpoint, that had to be, my kind of goosebump moment with that program was 1985 when they had 22,000 people in there for the Ohio State game, the day that Dr. Grant got in trouble with the fire marshal. But there wasn't that at crossover. But what was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was tremendous, just for those girls to have that opportunity to play in that large of an arena, in that crowd, and having the Children's Hospital being a part of the wave. And we had so many of our alums back for that game as well. And so having all of them be there and be a part of that, it was phenomenal. It was a little nerve-wracking at the beginning, didn't know how the weather was going to play out with the floor. And so it was kind of touch and go how it was going to happen, but we were determined to give them that opportunity to be able to play in front of that large of a stage.
Jason, at some point, Caitlin Clark's going to go into the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union Hall of Fame, I would think. What was kind of your impression of her? You saw her quite a bit at the state tournament, as a skinny little 15 to 18-year-old.
Well, you're right. The talent is so evident right away. I mean, despite the build, like you said, I mean, just this amazing range, the amazing passing ability. You just that sticks out right away. Still trying to figure out how Dowling didn't make it to state that her senior year. That was such a bummer for us personally. But the thing that really, I think, watching her grow and helping our game out. I mean, obviously, from our standpoint, we're extremely grateful of Caitlin and all the things that she has provided to Iowans the last 8 years, 8 years as far as her collegiate career and also her high school career. And, I think it's been especially fun to watch her in college and just see the effect that she has had on young girls. Obviously, she is like a Pied Piper almost. It still is. As far as how kids follow her and how they watch her and watch how she's just been a tremendous role model for Iowans in general, girls in all over the United States and the world. But just the effect that she's had on high school athletics, I think is huge. And I think, right now, I know, Jeff, you've written some stories about participation numbers in basketball and just kind of a lack of a lot of teams that have had to cancel seasons and things like that. And I do think that it will be very interesting to see the participation track in the next 5 to 10 years. All of these young ladies, young girls that have been watching Caitlin, they all want to be her. They all want to, they all have jerseys right now, and it'll be interesting to see how that translates as they get older.
Yeah, that was my next question. I think probably 20, 25 years ago, I think there were 22,000 girls that played high school basketball, and I think last year was 5,800. How concerning is that, and how does that get turned around? And the Clark impact, I'm not going to use Clark effect because that's an ESPN term, but does her impact, does that get that turned around?
I think it does. I think there are some participation numbers, like you said, 22 years ago. There's been a lot of things that have come up in the last 22 years in athletics, particularly high school athletics. I know we've referenced wrestling a little bit already. There's a lot of activities out there that weren't there 22 years ago, and that's not even talking about the social media and aspect of things as far as competing with phones, even to some respect with young people right now. But I do think we've established a task force that has met already, and we've sent out surveys trying to look for ideas to make the game better. The thing about basketball is it's difficult. You can only put 5 kids out there at a time. Where we have other sports, where volleyball, there's more. And I think, it's a very difficult game to play. And I think also, we have, like I said, we have volleyball, we have wrestling now, bowling, track and field. There's a lot of different sports, and I think you see a lot more specialization than you did 22 years ago. And I think you have a lot of people that are putting a lot of eggs in one basket as far as whether it's club teams and trying to get that, seek the college scholarships and all of those things. And I think that has dipped into maybe some of the participation levels of basketball.
Let's go ahead and let's talk wrestling a little bit. We'll start with Lila and Sasha. Iowa's becoming a trendsetter there with women's college wrestling. Tell us a little bit about the discussions that were in place as far as whether to begin this and become a trailblazer in that, and how where do you see that sport heading here in the future?
Yeah, so we're really excited to be the first Power 4 Division 1, or I guess at the time it was Power 5 Division 1 program to add women's wrestling. And people have continued to add the sport at the collegiate level, Division 1 level. This will be the first year that the NCAA offers a championship for women's wrestling, so really excited about that. And I expect to continue just to see that program continue to grow. So, being here in Iowa, it was kind of a no-brainer that was a program that we needed to continue to support. I think it's widely supported within our high schools, and so the need was there, and so we've just been very fortunate to continue to recruit and secure the top athletes in that unit. So I think it's just going to continue to enhance. Hopefully we'll continue to see more Division I programs adding the sport. And here in Iowa, there's many universities that already have collegiate women's wrestling as well. So it's been a great success for us.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head that you need a little more competition. You need some other schools, whether it's an Oklahoma State or an Iowa State or some other Big Ten teams to step up and be competitive, so that there's it's not just a niche sport. Jason, the Girls Athletic Union began sponsoring, sanctioning girls wrestling. What's it been, 3 or 4 years ago? It had been a club thing, and it's just growing and growing. And now it's a varsity sanctioned sport. And they've gone to 2 classes. They're going to 3 this year now, right?
No, this will be the first year for 2. We're not there at 3 yet. So
okay.
Yep. But it's amazing. The growth has been really something. As far as, and it's kind of interesting. Our growth of the sport has kind of corresponded with University of Iowa's development of their program as well. It's been both of us have a good relationship with the women's wrestling team there as well. But the growth has been fascinating to kind of watch, as far as how it is. I know there are a lot of people would tell you we didn't add it fast enough, but there are some protocols that we have in place as far as adding sports, and we wanted to make sure that we had enough, that there were enough people interested in that, and there was, and then we wanted to make sure we had the avenue to put on a tournament that is worthy of the girls. I mean, that if anybody knows anything about our organization, that our state tournaments are something that we take a lot of pride in, and we work hard to make that the best experience for our athletes, as female athletes, as possible. And I think that was something we wanted to make sure, when we were trying to add the sport. I mean, we got a lot of people telling us, how hard is it? You go to the boys tournament and throw a couple mats in the corner and go. I mean, that's not how we do things. And we wanted to make sure that we had the proper things in place to put on a tournament that's worthy of the girls that are participating in it. And I think we've done that, and it just has continued to grow.
Okay. Sasha, you were an athlete at Iowa in the early 90s, correct?
Yeah.
93 or 94, is that right?
Yeah.
How would you compare the experience you had to, some of the opportunities that the athletes have now with NIL and all those things?
Yeah, it's changing so fast, Jeff. And almost the ground is shifting every single day as we, like Lila said, enter a completely new model for college athletics. But I think take away the additional revenue share and the money and the agents and the branding that can be there. At its core essence, it's an incredible experience for men and women to learn how to use their sport as a mechanism for real growth. And that hasn't changed. And for a sport like mine, we're not a part of revenue share. We're not getting all the NIL deals. I feel very much like we're kind of a little bit of in a cocoon, which I'm going to embrace for as long as I can, because it's just an incredible experience. Transformed my life, transforms every student athlete that comes in our program in their life, and they will remember this as their best moment.
Okay. Lila, the college sports is changing dramatically, quickly, with NIL, with the transfer portal. How difficult is it to keep up with all that and keep your head above water with all these new things?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what we're constantly saying is we're building the plane as we're flying it, right? And so trying to figure out what are the rules? What entity are we working with? Is it NCAA? Is it CSC? But here at Iowa, we do a real great job with the collaborative effort. So we've got a number of folks that are involved. So it's not like we're just relying on one individual that's guiding us and providing us, all of the direction of that. And so, like I said, there's a number of us that are involved with each entity, whether it's NCAA, CSC, the Big Ten, all those spaces to figure out what we're doing, how we need to be responsive to it, and how do we need to be prepared for all of those different changes, because they're constantly coming. We thought July 1 was going to come and we were going to be ready to go and know what we're doing, but really realized across the board that there was just still more questions than answers. So we're kind of just continuing to go with being able to be responsive to what's coming our way and identifying any issues that we need to have addressed. Whether we're working through the NIL Go or just through the Big Ten and CSC. And so it's just, it's challenging, it's interesting, but at the same time, it's exciting and new. And so it's kind of keeps you on your toes.
What do you think college sports, women's college sports in general, what do you think it looks like in 2030? Looking forward, is it going to be a lot different, or, obviously conference expansion is changing all the time. How do you, if you had a crystal ball, what do you think it'll look like in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I wish I knew, but I kind of like Sasha, I go back to the core of what we're doing and why we're doing. And so I just hope we don't lose that focus. And that still is an integral part of everything that we do on a day-to-day basis, right? Mm-hmm. These are our student athletes who came here for an education. And so that remains at the forefront of everything that we do. And I just hope that the NIL space is just an add-on to their experience. Give them additional opportunities while they're still pursuing their academics and their athletic pursuits. Because there are some folks who social media is a big part of what they do, their everyday lives. And so giving them that additional opportunity to perhaps, build into that, whether they have a huge social media following, they become an influencer, whatever it may be that they have an interest in, but it's just kind of aside to their athletic and academic experience at their universities.
Jason, the Girls Athletic Union has, it has always really been forward thinking, adding sports. Bowling a few years ago, wrestling is new. Are there any other sports that you kind of see on the horizon? I noticed Cornell College is adding flag football for women, and I think that's awesome. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Do you see anything on the horizon? I've heard about archery and some other sports, but anything you can fill us in about that?
Yeah, you mentioned flag football. I was going to say that if you didn't, so that's great, and that is something that's been coming up a lot. The NFL has a lot of money that they're really pushing to get to spread flag football, and that is something that we're taking a look at. And as always, if enough schools are interested, we would obviously take a look at it. I think kind of our protocol is I think there needs to be 15% of schools on our membership. So that'd be roughly about 54 schools would have to have a club team in place to consider us adding a sport like that. But I know that there are, I've seen a lot of the bigger public schools. I think some of the Des Moines publics. I know Ottumwa, I think, also has club flag football teams and some other things. And lacrosse gets mentioned. Archery is mentioned a lot. Several others that have come about as well. So there's a lot of things on the horizon. And I want to correct something. You were right about the wrestling. We've been 2 classes. That tells you how much it's changing. I can't even keep track. So my apologies, Jeff.
Is it going to 3 this year?
No, it's not. We added we had a dual team for next year. That's the newest change. But we'll look at that. Well, obviously the numbers are enough that we'll probably take a hard look at it again next year.
Okay, great.
Sorry about that.
No, again, to anybody that's out there watching, remember, please, if you have any questions, throw them into our inbox. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Sasha, while we're waiting for some questions, tell us a little bit about your baseball background.
Yeah, during the baseball playoff season, we were, I think, talking before the show, and I mentioned to Jeff that, I grew up in professional baseball. So my father was 47 years in baseball. So he was player, coach, and manager. And he had some great moments in baseball. Had a lot of moments. He was third base coach when Cal Ripken broke the record. He was third base coach when George Brett hit his 300th home run. He managed the Oakland A's and the San Diego Padres when I was young. So yeah, and he was somebody who, you know, with me as his daughter, he wanted me to have the sport experience. So I often think how wonderful it was for me to have a dad who knew how much sport had impacted his life and wanted his daughter to have that same experience. And I land at Iowa. My father actually is a Michigan grad, but he let me become a Hawkeye. And one of my favorite stories, to kind of bring it back to our discussion here, is I have now in my possession letters that were exchanged between my dad and Dr. Grant while I was a student athlete at Iowa. He was writing to her, thanking her for all of the mentorship and all of the leaders that I had during my experience. And she was writing back to him, and they've both now passed away, but I hold those letters really, really dear between the two of them.
Lila, what brought you into your role? What made you want to be involved in sports administration?
Well, I grew up playing sports as a young kid, but really I didn't know that this was a career, that this was even an opportunity. And so when I started college, the summer prior to starting college, they had a program where you had to volunteer on campus. And I randomly got placed in the athletics department. So literally from day one, I was working in college athletics, and then I just ended up staying with them my 4 years of college and beyond. And so it was really all I ever knew. I didn't know it was a thing going into college, but it's quickly became my passion, just the environment and the opportunities that I loved. And so the early years of my career were focused in compliance. That's what brought me to the University of Iowa, was working in compliance. And then after being here a couple of years, I was able to get involved in other areas within administration. So it's been just kind of a unique experience. I've worked at I went to school in Division II, but I've always worked in Division I. So I've worked at the FBS level as well as the FCS level. And so it's been neat to be able to see the differences between all of those different type of programs.
Okay, great. Jason, Iowa's the only state that has separate governing bodies for the boys and the girls. Some people wonder why. Sometimes I wonder why the other 49 states aren't doing what we're doing, because it really gives Iowa girls a chance to not be, considered, I don't want to say second-class citizens athletically, but, just what the union does and has done. What made you want to be a part of this? And, what do you think the Girls Athletic Union is doing that really makes this a special experience for high school girls?
Well, I guess for my personal journey, I was fortunate enough. Like I said, I'm a University of Iowa grad, and I was fortunate enough as an undergrad to work in the SID office back when the two athletic departments were separate. So, I was an intern, but Dr. Grant technically, I guess, could be considered my boss. But I worked under Beth Weber. She was the sports information director on the women's side, and that was I got a chance to watch how that department was run. And really, the thing that overwhelms me in my position now, in addition to even as an undergraduate, realizing the amount of pride and that the university had in their women's programs, and you didn't see that. And then also, fortunate enough, before I got into sports information, I worked in the newspaper business a little bit. I worked for the Marshalltown Times Republican, and then I covered high school sports in Grundy County for the Grundy Register, and I loved getting all of this information from the girls, these packets of information that had pages and pages of stat leaders. I mean, I love sports. I'm a stat geek. I'll read everything that's put in front of me, and I love the way they did things. And I was fortunate enough when I got to Drake again to work more on the women's side of things, working with the women's basketball program at Drake when Jan and Lisa were coaching there, and was able to experience their first two NCAA tournament appearances with the Bulldogs, and then just had a great situation. And you talk about the two separate organizations. Actually, it's four if you talk about music and speech and throw them in there as well. We dedicate all of our time to celebrate the Iowa girl. And it's and with our history, we've been around, we're approaching our 100th anniversary here in 2027, excuse me. We really want to celebrate the Iowa girl. And there's generations and generations of Iowa women that have grown up in Iowa that have been able to compare stories, whether it was how they played, how awesome the 6-player game was, comparing it to their granddaughters, how they're competing at the 5-player game. And same thing even now with volleyball, we're having generations of kids being able to compare how that is. And I think Chuck Offenberger once said it best, where we get a lot of course, I should have turned my phone off. I apologize.
Sure. Here's some music picked just for you.
Yep, it's all going haywire right now. Technology is great. So where was I?
Chuck Offenberger.
Yeah, Chuck said that he said why, he gets questioned, why does Iowa do things the way they do it? And he says, why don't other states do what we do? And I think he's got a point. I think it is unique what we do here, but I think it's good. I think, we have tried to celebrate the Iowa girl as best as we can. We've done more in the last 10 years with how we kind of brand things. We want people to know that what we're doing as a state association as well. And I think it's worked. I think it works well.
So you were there when Lisa and Jan were there. I played a lot of pickup ball with Jan when I was a Drake student. I was a year ahead of her at Drake. Jason, when Lisa and Jan were in charge of Drake, what did you see in Jan that you thought, boy, she's a special person, she's going to be a really good head coach at some point?
She's pure Iowa. That's the first thing. And that really comes across. I think it came across as a head. Honestly, I would hate to be a recruit to tell her no, just because of her personality. She draws you in immediately. One of the most caring individuals I've ever come across. We haven't worked together for 29 years, but we still keep in touch. I remember when my oldest son put a tweet out about him committing to play football at Wartburg, Jan says, "Congratulations, Jake." That's just, it's like, who does that? And so you knew right away that she just was both, and she learned from a master and Coach Bluter, again, two of the most caring people you'll ever meet. And the culture that culture is a thing, and they built it. They built it when they were at Drake, and they refined it, I think, when they've gotten to Iowa. And it's been really fun to watch that both of them, and now Jan, develop their programs and put their stamps on things. And just, as someone that's watched them and seen their success, it makes me proud to feel like, well, I was there for a little bit of that. And it was awesome. And it just couldn't be a bigger fan of Jan Jensen.
Yeah. Great. Is there anything that anybody else wants to touch on before we still haven't got any questions? Any questions or comments that anybody wants to throw out there here? It's roundtable time.
Well, I'll just say real quick, and then Jeff's been gracious enough to let me step off. I'm going to go to a memorial service here in a little bit from one of my family members. But I just wanted to say, to echo what Jason was saying, how special it is to be a part of the Iowa Girl State Championships and be a part of those athletics. And I've had two daughters that have gone through high school here in the state of Iowa and participated. My youngest daughter made the golf tournament and got her state sweatshirt and wears that with pride. And the last 2 mornings I've gone to practice with my tennis team and just had an influx of pink banners and pink windscreens at the HTRC where we practice, and the fans and the support and the girls that are there right now competing in the state tournament is first class. And it is unlike any other, states that would put on a state championship for the girls. And just listening to all the threads that we've been talking about today, you can't help but feel so much pride and the uniqueness and the history of sports in Iowa, especially with women. And Caitlin and Jan and Lisa, we've talked a lot about, and they were all first Iowa girls in the high school association. And that starts there with the values that they learn and the way that they're supported by our community. And then it just continues. And I really feel like there's a ripple effect into the nation from what has been going on here at Iowa for years and years.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah. Thanks, Sasha. We're going to dismiss you. Thank you. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Lila,
See you,
anything
Sasha.
else? Any last words?
Just to kind of echo what Sasha had mentioned, I think it's just really valuable that we do what is best for the girls and the women, not just a version of what the men do, but we really are responsive to the needs and the desires of the girls and the women's sports. And so it's really focused on what is going to help them most, and not just a version of what the boys are doing or what the men's doing and how they're operating. And so I think keeping that in perspective and realizing that it is really centered around the girls and the women's sports, I think that's really valuable.
Jason, any closing words?
It's been really fun to be on this panel. I love talking girls sport athletics, and I know you like it too, Jeff. I mean, we've been doing this both a long time, and certainly I want to say what a great job you and the Gazette do in regards to covering our sports. The Gazette is second to none in Iowa and how they cover things, especially high school athletics, particularly girls athletics. And it says a lot that you've remained on that beat as long as you have too. But we're very fortunate to have the Gazette as one of our storytellers of the Iowa Girl. It's been, you guys have done a fantastic job.
All right. Well, thank you. I think we'll call it a day. Thanks so much to Sasha, to Lila, to Jason for joining us, and thanks for our sponsors. J.R. Ogden is next. He's going to talk about some high school recruiting. I think that's his show here at 11:45. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.